In Fazbear Frights, we're introduced to Andrew, the one you should not have killed from Ultimate Custom Night. But outside of being killed by William Afton at some point, we're not told exactly when he died, and it's left mostly a mystery. This mystery is one that people have debated for a while, and today, I want to give my opinion on the matter. Hey guys, it's me, Bernie Bear, and without further ado, let's begin. First, we need to turn to Fazbear Frights to see if they give us any clues as to when our favorite alligator ghost kid dies. The closest thing we get to an answer comes from Into the Pit, where 6 kids are associated with the missing children incident, as opposed to the usual 5. At the time, people were torn between this being Charlotte or Andrew. Although now I think the common consensus is that it's Andrew. Okay, we narrowed down a general time frame for Andrew's death, around the MCI, but was it before or after the event? This seems like it should be easy to answer, but it isn't. The books don't tell us anything outside of this, so we're gonna have to turn to other mediums for help. Starting with the game Andrew was introduced in, Ultimate Custom Night, where we have the Toy Chica, the high school years cutscenes. These cutscenes represent William Afton killing his victims, and more specifically, the victims of the MCI. There's a victim before everyone else, Charlotte, and a victim who shares a similar method of being lured as Susie.
I told him that someone ran over his dog in front of my house. But once he's there, I'll entice him with warm cookies, lure him inside, invite him inside, and then I'll have him.
The last victim of these cutscenes, Pigpatch, is killed for no reason, and has the most brutal death.
Look at that snout. Looks aren't everything. I'll just wait for him after school, throw a bag over his head, hit him with a shovel, and drag him into the back of my car. Then, when he wakes up, I'll tell him that someone was trying to kidnap and kill him. I don't know, Balloon Boy maybe. And then I'll tell him that I rescued him. He'll fall for me immediately.
You would think this means it's Andrew, right? Well, no. There's actually a victim after Charlotte and before Susie, whose death is pretty tame compared to the others.
I told him that I needed help with my homework, but once he's there, I'll have him.
These cutscenes come from the same game as this.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
Withered Chica, who is possessed by Susie, confirms that she was the first, presumably of the MCI, which means that there has to be a victim before the MCI. I know people have tried to argue that this secret victim is actually Bite Victim or Elizabeth, but these cutscenes are pretty clearly about Afton's direct kills. Bite Victim was killed by Michael, and even the animatronic that killed him was probably built by Henry. And although Elizabeth was killed by William's creation, he didn't directly kill her. Heck, I don't even think the Fun Times were built to kill kids. Go watch this video to find out my thoughts on that. So if it's not Charlotte, Bite Victim, or Elizabeth, it's Andrew. As for the Pigpatch victim, it would therefore have to be Cassidy, since we're pretty sure she's the last of the MCI. I don't have a problem with her having the most brutal death, especially if you think she was springlocked to death, but the fact that Afton kills her for no real reason is kind of suspect. Now let's go to the next, and as of now final game Andrew appears in, Into the Pit. In terms of potential clues for when he dies, the game gives us 2 big ones, the 6 out of 5 party hats, and the purple 6th balloon in the fetch minigame. There's also a smaller clue in one of the pause menu drawings, showing a pizza with 5 slices together and a 6th one separated from the rest, implying a victim not directly included in the 5, but still close enough to be grouped in with them. Some people think this is a stretch, but I don't think it is. As for the minigame clues, let's start with the 6th balloon. This could be trying to tell us that after the initial 5, there was a 6th victim who's associated the most with William, Andrew. After all, the 6th balloon, the only purple one, is the last balloon you collect. And of course, I don't need to explain the color similarities. On a similar note, even though you can collect the 6th party hat and collect the hats without collecting the first 5, the laugh sound that plays only plays after you've collected 5 hats. And it's pretty clear that you're supposed to collect the initial 5 first, and then get the 6th one. Both of these clues seem like they're implying that Andrew was after the initial 5 victims. And now, we turn to our final source, Return to the Pit. In Return to the Pit, during Oswald's first day visiting the 1985 Freddy's, if he puts on a party hat, he ends up following the yellow rabbit down a hallway to a gray metal door leading to a storage room. Inside the room is a dead kid. The gender of the kid isn't specified, unfortunately. In the canon route of the game, when Oswald returns a whole 2 days later and finds the dead kid kids in the same room, there are only 5 of them, as opposed to 6 like in the previous iterations of the story. To me, this is saying that the victim Oswald found 2 days before is separate from the 5, therefore making it Andrew. Some people think it's Susie, but I just don't see how that could be the case. Time in and out of the pit does work differently, but time still exists in the realm of the ball pit. When Oswald returns after his first trip, it's a new day, so there's at least a 1-day gap between this mystery victim and the MCI. Plus, when Oswald saves the MCI kids in one of the endings, they're all still alive. If this secret victim was one of them, that would kind of be impossible, since they're dead. So our victim 0 is 100% separate from the rest, which lines up with Andrew. We have 2 pieces of evidence suggesting Andrew died before the MCI, and 2 pieces of evidence suggesting Andrew died after the MCI. Great. So what do I think? Well, I think Andrew died before the MCI. That return to the pit victim and Toy Chica the high school years cutscenes are really convincing. But then how do we explain the details from the Into the Pit game? I think the 6th party hat is the easier of the 2 to explain. 6 out of 5 doesn't need to mean Andrew died after the initial 5, just that there was a secret 6th victim in the event, when we all assumed there were only 5. As for them being separated from the rest, well, Return to the Pit explained that. You could also say that just because we're meant to collect the hat last, doesn't mean he died last. It could just be Mega Cat wanting a way to show that Andrew was different from the rest of the victims. He was special. He was the test run before the MCI. Yes, the 5 balloons being popped does seem like it could represent the missing children incident victims dying. They go from being alive at a party to getting popped, and then here comes Andrew. But you could also view the scene backwards. Andrew is first, then the 5 victims, and then Happiest Day. After all, there are 6 cake slices. And then as for the 6th balloon, I think that's just another instance of just because we collected 6 doesn't mean the last one has to be Andrew. Although, I will say, the fact that the last one is purple, a color associated with Afton, and Andrew is heavily associated with Afton, does heavily suggest the last balloon represents Andrew. Ultimately though, I think Toy Chica the high school years and Return to the Pit are just more convincing than the 2 instances of 6 out of 5 from Into the Pit. Either way though, Andrew still dies around the time of the MCI, so whether you place his death before or after doesn't really matter. For me, I think Andrew dying first is Afton testing the waters to see if he can get away with luring a kid to the safe room and killing them. Once a day has passed and no one has reported Andrew missing, because no one cares enough to report him missing, he realizes he can get away with it, and then goes through with the MCI. And then, on the opposite side, if you think Andrew died after the MCI, then I guess he could have seen the MCI happen, or maybe the aftermath of it, and then Afton could have killed him to get rid of evidence. Or maybe Afton was still riding on the high of the MCI and getting away with it, so then he killed Andrew for no reason, like Pigpatch in Toy Chica the high school years. Either one works, and ultimately it's just down to your personal preference which one you prefer. I won't lie, I'm not 100% sold on the idea of Andrew dying before the MCI, but I also don't think I would be 100% sold saying he dies after the MCI either. It doesn't matter too much. And like I said earlier, just comes down to which evidence you think is more important. But I think I made a pretty strong case for Andrew dying before the MCI. Thank you guys for watching, and be sure to let me know what you thought of this video in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.